Israel's
rocket fire from Gaza does continue here along the Israel-Gaza border. Some of the communities taking a direct impact today. Israeli forces say they struck new targets overnight, hitting tunnel shafts and weapons storage facilities. We also know they continue to go after Hamas leadership, including yesterday when they targeted Wissam Farhat, the commander of Hamas's Sajaiya battalion. Farhat was responsible for an attack in 2014 that killed 7 Israeli soldiers inside Gaza. He also was one of the masterminds behind the October 7th massacre. Now, the Palestinian Health Ministry says the death toll in Gaza is rising since the renewed fighting started.
Fox's Trey Yingst. The Israeli military says it has expanded its ground operations to every part of Gaza and ordered more evacuations from the crowded south, followed by heavy bombardment. When conflict began between Israel and Hamas back in early October, there were questions then about how it would end. Those questions continue. U.S. officials indicate what they'd like to see in the Gaza region.
Outside of any pauses in fighting, an end to the Israel-Hamas conflict does not appear close at hand. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said on Fox News Sunday, any resolution must include reformed government for Palestinians.
A revitalized Palestinian Authority that is much more able to meet the aspirations and the needs of the Palestinian people.
Kirby says the U.S. does not want to see Israel in control of the Gaza region, something Israel also says it has no desire for.
Fox's Gernal Scott. I'm Ted Lindner. This is Fox News.
Your pup deserves to have healthy skin and a smooth, soft coat, so book your appointment today at the Bougie Booney Dog Salon in Upper Tumon. Yes, that's Bougie, B-O-U-J-I-E. Grooming services for all breeds and sizes include a bath with high-quality shampoo and conditioner, haircuts, de-shedding, and complimentary nail trims. The cutest part is the Christmas photo shoot. You gotta see for yourself. Check them out at the Bougie Booney on Instagram. Book your appointment online at thebougiebooney.booksy.com. WhatsApp 797-4163 or reach out on FB and IG.
Hafa-day, Alex Dimapon here from Security Title. Title reports, escrow forms, signatures, statements, and title insurance. When it comes to buying, selling, or refinancing your property, we do it all for you. At Security Title, we enjoy watching your dreams come true and being the ones to make sure it happens just as you planned. Call the professionals at Security Title. We are here to help.
Need a new look for the holidays? Or just want to pamper yourself? Studio 211 offers a variety of services to make you look good and feel great this holiday season. Studio 211 is having a 20% off special on full highlight services Tuesday and Wednesday only. For more info, call 671-637-4536 or 4537 to book your appointment, or visit us at the Micronesia Mall next to the theaters. Studio 211, serving the people of Guam for 43 years.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Yeah, so here we go. Another episode of Tall Tales. And once again, I'm looking at myself in a different camera, and I hardly recognize myself. It's just another really good-looking guy. No, that's not it either. Anyhow, here we go. We've done the Second Amendment part of the show. Obviously, there's no Zemi Cotney anymore, so we go straight to the card, and this is what I got on today's card. I'm going to start out, there's no Public Law 36-34 dimension today. So we go straight to Juliana and Kennedy versus Monica. And then after that, we've got Sandy versus Scottus. That would be Sandra Day O'Connor. Kim versus UOG. And then we've got USA versus Franklin Calvo. Gilbaza versus Wong. A lot of court stuff today. Pope Francis versus the Holy See. And then I hope I can get back to Bavako versus self-determination to show how horribly he misunderstands what it is he thinks he's trying to do. Then we've got Tall Tales versus Henry Kissinger and Brown versus Won't. I had a phone call, but it dropped, huh, Jose?
Yeah, no, they want to put in a subject to discuss for today, but I'll let you know later on. It was not on the card, though.
What is it?
The credits applied to GPA bills.
The which?
Want to talk about the credits applied to GPA bills? I'm guessing the $100 credits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound very interesting, does it?
I don't know what it. Yeah. It would be interesting if they gave us $300 credit. But where's it coming from? But that was the call was.
Oh, okay. So we'll see if we can pick it up at the end of the show.
Sure.
If we have time. Okay, let's start out as usual. The first item on the card is Jeff's Pirates Cove and his sponsorship of Zemi Ikotny. And I can't tell you how grateful I am for Jeff sponsoring that part of the show. Zemi Ikotny. And I was at Jeff's on Saturday. And you talk about a beautiful day and a beautiful place. The weather was perfect. The food was great. I was with some nice folks. Not my usual friends.
Strangers.
Not my usual friends. Nice folks. And the setting was just outstanding. So I just can't tell you enough about Jeff's Pirates Cove and how grateful we are to Jeff for sponsoring Zemi Ikotny. You remember how it works. We have the orange rice. Yeah, there's the orange rice. And Paul Zerzan had the temerity to suggest that it's not really orange. I'm sorry, that it isn't really red, which everybody wants to call it, but it's orange. And he got taken to the cleaners by the Daily News. The Daily News canceled him, etc. And I latched onto that analogy, calling something red when it's really orange. And anyone who understands facts knows it's orange. I latched onto that as part of the show as an analogy to show how often we're dealing with a situation where we're dealing with the facts that are overcome by an idealistic analogy and how really disappointing it can be. So thanks again, Jeff. It's a really valuable part of my show. Okay, from there, we're going to Juliana Margulis versus Moneka. Juliana Margulis is an actress. I've seen her in a few movies. Not very memorable, not as A-list as far as I'm concerned, but she is part of that gang, and she does stand for the proposition that sisterhood is powerful. And this is what she said in the Americans Report online on December 1st. The title of this article is Juliana Margulis Shreds Pronoun Police for Hamas Hypocrisy. As a man with a very small brain, and this is by an author, the author is speaking, not Juliana, I am humble enough to admit I'm not the best screwdriver I have in my kitchen drawer. I find myself baffled by a lot of things in this crazy universe. How can gravity make us fall toward the center of our planet without crushing us? Why does chicken taste in everything? Does it make noise if a tree falls on the ground in a forest and no one is there to hear it, around to hear it? I am still astonished by the support that the LGBTQ pronoun mafia has given to Hamas. Hamas is an Islamic organization that strongly condemns homosexuality. I don't think that you'll see Hamas demonstrators out campaigning for Josh. What do you think, Jose?
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Hamas is an Islamic organization that strongly condemns homosexuality in all its forms and calls for the death penalty for those who are caught. I just don't get it. I would say I would use the old politics makes strange bedfellows, but that's an outrageous play on words even for me, Jose. How can the LGBT community support a group who demands that LGBTQ people thrown off a roof and their heads removed from their necks? It makes no sense. But it's more than just support. These radical sexual deviants praise the Palestinians for their bravery in fighting against colonialists. Now, here's the key word, colonialists, right? Who invaded Israel and took back land they had been forced from. This is not the right interpretation of history. However, facts have never really been important to the left, thus systemic racism. The actress Juliana Margulies was also baffled by the Rainbow Brigade's support of Hamas. She called their position on the matter contradictory and slammed them with scorched earth. Margulies made comments on the podcast, quote, Back Room, where she spoke with host Andy Ostroy. It's these kids who spew anti-Semitic hatred who have no idea if step foot in a Muslim country. These people want us to call them they, them, or whatever they would like us to refer to them as, which I respectfully did. I don't do that, Jose. You can be whatever you want, Margulies said, that those are the people who would be beheaded first and then their heads used as soccer balls. Are you listening here, Monica? Just soccer balls on a field. And this is who they support? The star of the morning show continued, terrorists don't like women having their rights. They don't like LGBTQ people are executed without exception. And this is what you support? It's absurd to me and would be funny if it weren't so tragic. Margulies took the opportunity to throw a missile toward professors in universities and colleges across the country, across the nation, for not stopping pro-Palestine demonstrators on their campus. He then pulled the students into auditoriums to educate them about the atrocities perpetuated on campus by terrorist groups. Students participating in these protests were informed that they should be aware of the cause they support when they attend these events. Muslims and Christians are being held captive, as well as Buddhists and Jews. And you're tearing down posters? Margulies continued. What will that do? Margulies added, what do you mean to say? A black lesbian group at Columbia University was also discussed. They were in the news for preventing, quote, Zionists who attended a campus film screening from attending. Does a group of lesbians forming a group based on their skin tone get extra points for being intersectional? Well, that's the way they want to do it, isn't it, Jose? Yeah. The more boxes you can check, the better off you are. Or the more important you are, the more rights you have. Margulies raged as someone playing a gay journalist on the morning show. I'm offended more as a lesbian than as a Jew. I want to tell you, not broadcast quality word, you don't exist. You're lower than Jews. You're both black and gay. Yeah, in the intersectional framework, Jews are just as bad as white folks. In fact, they are white folks. In fact, they're worse than white folks. They're oppressors. They're always, and here again, they're the oppressors. The bloodthirsty Palestinians are, of course, the oppressed.
Identity politics has the worst organizational chart.
You got to stand on your head in order to properly read it because it's upside down.
Or close your eyes.
Or close your eyes, yeah. You might think Margulis is a Hollywood actress who supports causes such as homosexual marriage and Black Lives Matter. But she supports left-wing causes like the Black Lives Matter movement. She's angry because so many of the leftists she knows have come out as anti-Semitic by supporting Hamas or falling for its propaganda and mainstream media. Hamas controls the media. Hamas releases what it wants the world to think, she declared. Of course, all the Jews will speak up. The non-Jews are the ones who need to speak out. It brings me back to the Holocaust tonight and how our ancestors felt when suddenly their friend said, sorry, you can't come over anymore. And of course, the bottom line here is that identity politics is never a good thing. No matter which identity you're championing, which identity you're downgrading. It was Mr. Justice Roberts who, in a recent Supreme Court case, said, the way to not have racial discrimination anymore is to stop discriminating on race. The way to not have identity politics anymore is to stop dealing in identity politics. We're all, you scratch the skin, we're all the same. We got either an X chromosome and a Y chromosome or a couple of X's. We're all mammalian, on and on and on. And the reason that we're different is because we were made different. And that is our real strength. Imagine if every single person in the earth had the same set of skills, knowledge, aptitude, and ability. The human race would have expired a long, long time ago because we need different folks who can do different things for other people at different times.
It sounds boring.
It does. Yeah, imagine this. Imagine that if because of some cosmic ray, every person from now on would be exactly like me, would be my double. Everybody in the world then would have to be a talk show host. We wouldn't have any brain surgeons. We wouldn't have any carpenters. We wouldn't have any plumbers. We'd just have a bunch of tall, geeky-looking, skinny guys who like to jabber in front of a microphone. The world can't operate that way, Jose. So let's really understand what our differences are. It's differences in ability, not in identity, that the identity politics folks want to foist on us, and that we all need a chance to make the maximum use of the skills that we have. So we all have to start at the starting line of the race. When the starter shoots his gun, we all start at the same time, and we run as fast as we can. Some get to the finish line sooner than others. Some never get to the finish line. But we don't do anybody a favor by chartering a fleet of buses. Starting gun goes off, everybody climbs on the bus, and then we haul them down to the finish line and say, line up, you guys. Now you have to all cross the finish line at the same time. And, of course, this is what identity politics is all about. This is what critical race theory is all about. Equal results, not equal opportunity. Next, we've got Kennedy versus Maneka. And this one is really about Joe Biden, but it works just as well for Maneka. How Western happy talk breeds ignorance and misinformation. Happy talk, do the words happy talk mean anything to you, Jose?
No.
I was thinking about putting something together around this, saying that Guam is not in the South Pacific, but in the North Pacific. Even so, we understand happy talk. don't we, you guys in the South Pacific? The movie South Pacific.
Oh,
Yeah, happy talk, keep talking, happy talk.
I don't remember that one.
Remember that?
I just remember We Ain't Got Dame song.
There's nothing like a dame.
Not there you go, yeah.
And that was supposed to have been Western Samoa
Oh, okay.
during World War II.
That's not the South Pacific, is it?
And the key, what was her name? The Tonkinese woman. I can't remember her name, but she was supposed to have been patterned after a lady named Aggie Gray, who ran a hotel in Western Samoa. And in 1965, I stayed in Aggie Gray's hotel in Western Samoa. Touching bases in all these out-of-the-way places, Jose. Anyhow, happy talk. Happy talk can be dangerous because it leads to death. People believe stupid things when they hear happy talk. Leaders tend to believe, well, what they want to. It is their job to do the exact opposite, especially when it comes to national security. Foreign policy should be left to cold-eyed people who can make the right decisions even when it's hard. Politics tends to attract those who have starry-eyed visions or cowards that will hide their cowardice behind those visions. These days, it's really difficult to tell who Joe Biden really is. Biden's position is changing as fast as Israel's fight against Hamas continues. And make no mistake, the war will continue until Hamas has been utterly destroyed. Hey, Maneka, I'm repeating this just for you. The war will continue until Hamas has been utterly destroyed. Biden made a lot of good sounds. He expressed his support for deposing of Hamas, and he correctly stated that Israel faces a challenging task to do so while minimizing civilian casualties. He seems to have shifted his position after being pushed by the radical left-wing media and young, stupid staffers. Maneka, do you have a chit in to go to work for Joe Biden? It sounds like you'd fit right into the staffers. Biden is increasingly falling prey to the propaganda efforts of the traditional media. These include 4 claims: that Hamas may not be as bad as they claim, that Israel's record is worse than what it appears, that Israel should make concessions to the Palestinian Authority to defeat Hamas, and that Biden's election prospects depend on believing these first 3 claims. All 4 of these claims are false. Hamas's reputation isn't as bad as it seems. Hamas is a prime example of Holocaust denial in action. It's shocking to see. Rewriting history involves outright lies. Systemic racism, Jose. The lie that Israeli helicopters killed people at the Supernova Music Festival, not Hamas, as well as obfuscation. Quote, do you have tapes of Israeli women being sexually abused, or just medical reports about their broken pelvises? As though that's an important difference, right? Hamas has been portrayed as being a rational group since they are releasing hostages.
Did you see there's a new thread going on the former Twitter where they're showing one of the hostages thanking the hostage taker as they're being released, and they're saying, wow, this could be a movie. And they just don't understand. Of course they're thanking them because they're still hostages in Hamas that want to be protected. Yeah. They're not going to disparage them right away, or at least on camera.
Yeah.
It's just mind-blowing how the ignorance is so strong.
Until you walk through the gate at Checkpoint Charlie, you say nice things about the East Germans.
The entire time.
Yeah. The second claim is that Israel shares some moral similarities with Hamas. This claim is usually expressed as a suggestion that Israel carpet bombs Gaza or uses indiscriminate firepower to attack Gaza. Now, let's take the word carpet bombs, okay? Carpet bombs? You can make a carpet out of bombs? Now, what that means is that you use high-capacity bombers like the B-52, and you fly over an area, and you've blocked it off into grids, and you drop bombs at what's the point? Coordinates, grid coordinates, in those grids so that every single grid is covered by the bomb blast. So if an area is 10 square miles wide, you do it in such a manner that you level the whole 10 square miles. Israel is not doing that, folks. It has never done that. Now, and this, of course, goes back to Kissinger. It's as though Kissinger were the bombardier on every B-52 that flew over Vietnam and Cambodia, because, we carpet bombed Vietnam and Cambodia. And some of the same tactics were in place then, on the American left. The Viet Cong worshipers in our own government, the guys who ran around displaying a Viet Cong blue and red flag and all that stuff.
Jane Fonda.
Yeah, Jane Fonda. Yeah, Hanoi Jane. That's ridiculous. Israel warns weeks in advance before attacking sites. Israel uses knock bombs to empty out the buildings. Israel allows Hamas terrorists a chance to blend into the civilian population rather than kill too many civilians. Israel is more cautious than any army of modern times. Israel is also dealing with a terrorist organization hiding in an urbanized area. This means that civilian casualties are likely to be high. There's also claim number 3. Israel should make concessions to the Palestinian Authority to curb Hamas. Thomas Friedman is a simpleton who writes a foreign policy column for the New York Times. Let me repeat that. Thomas Friedman is a simpleton who writes a foreign policy column for the New York Times. All they had to do was say, writes a column, foreign policy column they didn't have to talk about they could have left the word simpleton out of there. We could figure that one out ourselves, Jose.
It's an oxymoron.
Yeah. No, it's not an oxymoron. It's a redundancy.
There you go. Redundant.
Yeah. He has never encountered an Israeli concession he did not like. He writes that a revamped Palestinian Authority will be the keystone of forces for moderation, coexistence, and decency. Yeah, I know this is going to have a lot of appeal to Hamas, right? Yeah, they're just kind of that way. You must be a complete idiot to believe that. What's the guy's name again? Thomas? Yeah, he fits the bill. From the beginning, the Palestinian Authority viewed the Oslo Accords as a Trojan horse. Their leadership has said so. Yasser Arafat stated in 1994, whatever happened to Yasser Arafat?
Did he pass away already?
I think he went to work for that sunglasses company, didn't he? Ray-Ban, yeah. But, of course, since he's always got his shades on, no one can recognize him. Yeah, Yasser, that he did not consider the Oslo Agreement to be more important than the agreement signed by our Prophet Muhammad with Quraysh. This agreement was the precursor to the massacre of the Quraysh tribe of Mecca a few short years after Muhammad had signed a false agreement for peace. Now, that reminds me of a conversation that I've had with some intelligent folks about Islam, Muhammad, etc. And I'm so interested, and I'm going to break in here, and I'm going to come back to this article. But I know Jose's sitting over there wondering, is he ever going to take a break? Let's take it, Jose.
People are saying the future looks uncertain.
Jobs, education, even our health.
Everything seems harder now. They wonder if we're up to the challenges we're all facing.
We don't. We share in the proud history of our island and people.
We share the drive to serve and make life better for all of us.
We all share the will to overcome and succeed.
With part-time service in the Guam Army National Guard, you can share that too.
Join Guam's next greatest generation.
Contact us at 671-969-5967 or visit nationalguard.com/Guam to find out more.
Sponsored by the Guam Army National Guard and this station.
Santa's coming and things are looking up. Bank Pacific has rolled out Rudolph's favorite My Christmas loan with the annual percentage rate as low as 7.49% and up to $50,000. And with our Bank Pacific contactless Visa debit card, you have the flexibility of using your money when you want, where you want. My Christmas loan, contactless Visa debit card. Let's make Christmas season merrier in 23. Equal opportunity lender, credit conditions apply. Merry Christmas from Bank Pacific.
There are only 21 days left till Christmas, and this Christmas countdown is brought to you by the Bougie Booney Dog Salon, located in Tamuning. You can easily book your appointment online today at the bougieBooneyBooksy.com website or WhatsApp, on their WhatsApp at 671-797-4163. This PSA is FIDO approved.
We now return to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, soaring over the confusion with his superpowers of truth. Call 888-TALK. That's 888-8255.
For once, it's what the dog did. Yeah, I imagine the dog appreciates that.
Let's just hope the dog doesn't do.
Yeah, okay, so picking up here on Islam, there was a really good George Will column that I can't lay my fingers on right now. It's too long for me to do the whole thing on Tall Tales, but I ought to bring it in here. And George Will, talks about Islam and how bloodthirsty it is and how, for something that holds itself out as a religion, it's really amoral, right? And he analyzes that. And he says that the reason that Islam does this and the reason that it can persuade people to follow the will, and by the way, Islam means obedience. That's what it means in Arabic. It's all you have to do. You have to be obedient. You don't have to have any particular qualities or etc. And Christians understand that men are created by a divinity. And as part of that creation, there's a certain internal hardwired sense of decency that we can overwhelm. It doesn't take much to overwhelm, but it's there. And because of that, we are susceptible. We're not just a void wandering around to be filled with whoever has a can full of something to pour in there. We're not susceptible as a general principle to certain kinds of ideologies because we're not just an empty vessel. And that's the reason that Christianity has been so successful. Now, Islam states on the proposition that man is an empty vessel, and a properly thought out dogma, given the proper incentives, and especially disincentives, can be used to control large numbers of people. So I had a conversation with some of my friends about this, and one of the guys said, that's a good article, but, the story is much shorter than that. All you got to do is read the Quran. And there's some real dynamite language in the Quran, there's just no getting around it. You can't make up bad stuff that bad. And he said, and the reason that it's there is because Muhammad is an evil person. And so my question was, well, okay, he's an evil person, and the stuff much of his commands to followers of Allah are evil. How has he gotten such a large international following? And my friend just goes back and quotes the Quran. And I said, no, you have to go a little deeper than that, as deep as this article goes. And that's the reason. And then, so I said, how did Muhammad, this insignificant guy and a couple of really insignificant desert towns out in the middle of the Arabian Peninsula. How did he, with this ideology, become so powerful? And I think we finally figured out the answer. Here's the answer. That Saudi Arabia, up until Muhammad came along in the 700s, was a tribal society. And the tribes were always at one another, fighting hard, stealing camels, stealing women, the whole thing. And Islam presented them with the ideology that they could all adopt that fits so well with exactly what they wanted to do, made it right, justified them, gave them common ground with to unite with other people around the world. And this is the reason that it has the power that it has. This is why if you fly on any airline that's operated from an Islamic country, you'll see a copy of the Quran, kind of like if in case of fire, break glass, and a glass case somewhere in that cabin. They're not taking off without the Quran. So the Quran has tremendous power. And of course, Muhammad gets credit for the copy and paste that became the Quran. And the Quran is the source of, is the foundation for Sharia law, fatwas, etc., and the power that this horrible group has. And that explains it. So this part here ties right into it. Their leadership has said so. Yasser Arafat stated in 1994 that he did not consider the Oslo Agreement to be more important than the agreement signed by our Prophet Muhammad with Quraysh. This agreement was the precursor to the massacre of the Quraysh tribe of Mecca, a few short years after Muhammad had signed a false agreement of peace. So if you adopt certain kinds of totalitarian ideologies, communism, Islam, radical Islam, your word is not important. You must sacrifice the dignity of keeping your word, keeping your promises, doing what you say you're going to do to further the cause. And that's why the Communist Party of the United States was so dangerous. People thought, well, Democrat, Republican, Communist, they're all just political parties, not the Communist Party of the United States, if you studied it. They started from the proposition that capitalism is so strong that unless we adopt an any means necessary approach, we will never free the worker from the capitalist chains. And I think Islam does the same thing. Any means necessary to either convert the world to Islam or make non-Muslims pay their tribute. And this paragraph here really ties into that. This agreement was the precursor to the massacre of the Quraysh tribe of Mecca a few short years after Muhammad had signed a false agreement for peace. Then there's also the last claim. Biden's electoral future is at risk because Israel is fighting to eliminate Hamas. This is also a lie. There is no data to support the claim that Biden's electoral troubles were caused by the Gaza war. According to Real Clear Politics average polling, Biden had 44% of the vote against Trump on October 7. He's now riding at 45%. October 7, he had 40.5 approval rating. Today, he has a 40.4% approval rating. Boy, he's really advancing in the polls, isn't he? Biden may fall victim to these lies because of his desperation. In that case, Biden would not only be a danger to himself, but also to Israel and the West. If there's anything that American enemies like, it's happy talking. It's a great article. And Maneka, I hope you've been listening to the show.
That's the George Will article?
No, it's not the George Will. The George Will article is longer and deeper and more philosophical. I'm going to hunt for it again tonight and see if I can find it.
That's the Kennedy article. I'm getting them all mixed up.
No, I haven't brought the George Will, or I've referenced it.
Oh, okay.
But I haven't used it on the show, and I was going to send it to you, but I couldn't find it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then we pick up with Maneka. Let's take a short break first, Jose.
Santa's coming and things are looking up. Bank Pacific has rolled out Rudolph's favorite My Christmas Loan with the annual percentage rate as low as 7.49% and up to $50,000. And with our Bank Pacific contactless Visa debit card, you have the flexibility of using your money when you want, where you want. My Christmas Loan contactless Visa debit card. Let's make Christmas season merrier in 23. Equal opportunity lender, credit conditions apply. Merry Christmas from Bank Pacific.
Christmas trees are going up at the Security Title Office in Tamuning, and with them comes the music and joy of the season. As we reflect on the ups and downs of 2023, one thing remains constant, and that is the deep gratitude we have for our customers and the meaningful work we do for our real estate community. Thank you for trusting us with your property. From our Security Title family to yours, we wish you a Christmas season filled with peace and joy.
Now let's take a peek at that picture of me and Jeff again. Yeah, there we are. Yeah, that's me on the right. Excuse me. On Jeff's right, it's Jeff, and I'm on Jeff's left. Out at Pirates Cove with that wine bottle that I brought back from the States. I was out there really enjoying myself on a Saturday when this picture was taken. And once again, I cannot recommend Jeff's more highly. And I cannot thank him enough for sponsoring systemic racism. You see how it keeps coming up throughout the program, that the left is over there telling you that rice is red, even though they got a mouthful of it. Even though it's stained their T-shirts orange.
Even though, it's no coincidence that The Point received Pika's Best 2023 radio station, and Jeff's Pirates Cove received Pika's Best 2023 Best Beachside Restaurant.
I think it's called a symbiotic relationship, Jose.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. There's Jeff's Pirates Cove, and I'm out there just like the sand. No, wait a minute. That's not a very good analogy, is it?
No.
Symbiotic. Okay, I want to be a little bit philosophical again. People talk about ethics. Oh, yeah, ethics is always doing the right thing, as though they really understand what it means without knowing anything about Hegel or Hobbes or Immanuel Kant or any of these guys, any of the ethical philosophies. And if you study it a little bit, you find out that oftentimes, or let's put it this way, most people think, you give me a choice between right and wrong, and I'll always do the right thing. You can count on me for that, unless I can make a lot of money doing the wrong thing. Or if it's a choice between good and bad, an ethical person always does the good thing. But as you find out later you get in life, oftentimes it's not a choice between right and wrong, good and bad. It's between worse and worser. That you have two unpalatable choices, and you've got to take one over the other. And it helps to have something other than a finger in the wind, a wet finger in the wind to help you decide. And this is where ethics, real ethics, comes in. And that's why I really like the way Henry Kissinger pursued his job. I've got a little bit more on Henry Kissinger that I want to get out also, probably tomorrow. But this is an ethical approach that I find very attractive. It comes from a guy named Immanuel Kant, except I'd much rather call him Kant. because it fits into things better. You can't do that. Yeah. All of his speech had a particular cant to it as he described the ethical rules. And here it is in short form. Kant derives his first formulation of the categorical imperative. Act only in accordance with that maxim which you can at the same time will that it become a universal law. Now, this is pretty heavy, so I'll spend a minute explaining it. Act only in accordance with that maxim through which you can at the same time will that it become a universal law. In other words, imagine yourself having the power so that when you choose to do something, the choice you make is applicable to the entire world. So when you approach a line up at Rev Tax and you're not Bihu, right? But you hate to stand in line, so you put on a false mustache and something that makes your hair look gray, so that even though you're only 49, you go to the front of the line. Is that ethical?
Oh, I thought you were describing a disguise that looks like you. That's very ethical. No, it's not ethical.
That'd be very unethical. Yeah, God only knows what kind of privileges that guy tried to demand, right? That I would turn down in a heartbeat.
No, your first scenario, that's not ethical.
Yeah. So, no, it's not ethical. Is it a crime? No. Is it dishonest? Probably not. It doesn't cost anybody anything. But it's not ethical. So if you were one who subscribed to the categorical imperative, then you would have to be able to justify that by saying, yes, I want the entire world. And any line, you don't have to wait your turn. You don't have to stand in line. You can forget the old maxim that, hey, buddy, the line forms at the end, not at the front. That would be the categorical imperative. You see what I'm talking about, Jose? So if you can, if you go to the store, and you see a carton full of cherries out there, you know, without any wrapping or cover or anything like that, you say to yourself, boy, those cherries really look good. Nobody's looking. I'm going to pop one in my mouth. You pop one of those cherries in your mouth. Is that ethical? It's technically theft.
Mm-hmm.
But the amount stolen is so small that even if you did it right in front of Doug Moylan, he'd treat it as de minimis, too small to trifle with. Well, wait a minute. Depend on who did it. If it was a government official, Doug would probably bust him.
If it was a CCU, it would have been death penalty.
Exactly. If it were Simon Sanchez, they'd be pumping sunlight to Simon right now. Good point, Jose. Yeah. So it's not this. It's arguably not even dishonest, you know, because Jose, there's a doctrine called usufruct.
I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, it's okay.
Censor that word. What was that again?
Usufruct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it is broadcast quality, and it goes back to old feudal times. And what it holds is this, that if I'm walking through somebody else's apple orchard, I can pick an apple from that tree and eat it, and the feudal lord can't discipline me for it. And I can pick as many as I can carry, but I can't have a bag or a basket or something like that. The ability to transit, you have to have a right to be there, but the ability to transit property upon which you have a right to be and make a limited harvest of the fruits and benefits of that particular piece of land.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't own the stream, you can stick your cup in there and take a drink of fresh water. Now, if you start filling up, you know, that big tank on the back of your truck, maybe not.
There's a limit.
Yeah. So we're mixing up a lot of kind of unusual topics for the show here, but universal law, according to the Kant's categorical imperative, act only in accordance with that maxim through which you can at the same time will that it become a universal law. Do you want to do that, Monica? Do you want the entire world to support the brutality, the primitiveness of this whole Hamas outfit? Do you want that to happen right here? Do you want to do it yourself? If you look at it from this standpoint, I think it's a little different. It's pretty easy to stand outside and wave a sign. And we found that out during the 60s. You know, I didn't get to law school until 1971, which was still the 60s. Because the 60s lasted right up until the day of 1973 when Richard Nixon said, I'm not going to draft any more guys. All of a sudden, just like that, it was all over. You know, ending the war in Vietnam wasn't so important anymore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Much of it was one of those, all of a sudden, peace broke out on the campuses, right? But, you know, you give a young college-age kid who's full of piss and vinegar, give him the choice between going to school and studying something really, really boring like differential equations, or going out to a rally and waving banners around. Which is the more fun? Yeah. You give Monica the choice of really taking the time to do a little bit of research and understanding what she's talking about, as opposed to going out with the red, green, and white, as you were black, green, and red flags, and demonstrate for Hamas and come up with silly rants about the Guam situation. Which is more fun? And that's what we're talking about. So here's, once again, just to refresh your recollection, I got Monica's idea of fun here. I'm kind of close to the halftime show, so I'm going to hold this off till afterwards. We've got the Hope Show today. We'll do the Hope Show after the big halftime show, and then we'll come back to Monica. In the meantime, I see Jose Martinez is on Facebook. Hooray for Jose. And the Candid News Group is there. And Lonnie Salas, old faithful Lonnie Salas, Rico Blancaflor, Bennett Lujan Duenas, and Edward Buenadicho, Stephen Blake, and Sandra Regis. Howdy, Sandra. I didn't see you at Pirates Cove last week. Kind of missed you.
She's up. She relocated.
Oh, she did?
She's up in Alaska now.
She is?
Freezing her butt off.
Wow.
Yes. But she gives us updates every now and then online. But, yeah, she's up there for a spell.
Oh, okay. Well, up in Alaska?
Up in Alaska.
Cool. Tailgaters are everywhere, Jose. I hope she has a good... if I'd known she was gone, I'd given her a good supply of tailgater cards so she could proselytize up there in Alaska. She probably is anyhow. Let's see. We've got Joseph Takai, my old friend Joseph Takai from my security days. Bertha Maza Cruz, not Baza, but Maza. And Jefe Tiamo Grazie, who wants to show us a different foreign language every day. And the famous Donna Mila Martinez, Jose.
Yes, she's, I know her.
Uh-huh.
I've heard of her.
And we've got Juanita Machi, who once upon a time was very faithful. She kind of goes away and then comes back. But Juanita, we're always glad to have you back. Harvey Igna, my favorite historian, says, if you ever want to read on the epic battles of Christianity, vital for survival, read about a couple of thousand Christian knights defeating 60,000 Muslims at the siege of Malta. And I know there's been Lepanto, the gates of the gates of Austria, Charles Martel, and I've mentioned this before, the only force in the world that has ever been able to beat the Muslims has been Catholicism, the Catholic religion. So if you think you can beat Islam with a secular approach, you are wrong. The only possibility that I can see is a worldwide drift to Catholicism and the conversion of Muslims to Catholicism. I don't see any other way that it can happen. Can it happen? Yes. Will it happen? Only if enough people want it to happen. Okay, let's break for the big halftime show.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Israel expands its offensive in Gaza. I'm Sue Guzman, Fox News. Israel launching continued attacks against Hamas forces in Gaza. The latest from Fox's Anita Vogel.
Israel taking a major step in its war with Hamas. The IDF says it's now expanding its ground operations to the entire Gaza Strip. The announcement comes just days after fighting resumed following the collapse of a week-long truce. With fighting underway again, the U.S. is stepping up pressure on Israel to do more to protect civilians. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says minimizing civilian casualties is crucial to Israel's long-term success.
Houthi forces launching missile attacks on 3 commercial ships in the Red Sea as tensions along the Gaza Strip continue to escalate. Colonel Jonathan Conrique is telling Fox's special report with John Scott that Iran is supplying the Houthis with weapons and expressed concerns the situation is escalating on the seas even further.
Commercial carriers, not even Israeli flagged and not even Israeli crewed. So really a blatant attack of aggression on international shipping. This has gone beyond from being an Israel-only issue to really a global issue.
Over the past 2 months, Iran-backed proxies have launched 75 attacks against U.S. forces in the Middle East. 1 person is dead after a plane crash in Virginia Sunday. State police say that plane was trying to land when it collided with several trees and went down in a field. The pilot, the only person aboard. The FAA and NTSB investigating. And word that a former American diplomat who served as U.S. ambassador to Bolivia has been arrested in a long-running FBI counterintelligence operation and is secretly serving as an agent of the Cuban government. The Associated Press quoting 2 people familiar with the matter who say Manuel Rocha was arrested in Florida. Further details on the case expected to be made public on Monday. America's listening to Fox News.
Listen to The Point anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Find your favorite stations like The Point and discover more. Music stations, local and trusted news sources, sports talk and team coverage, plus today's biggest podcasts. Find it all on the Odyssey app. AUDACY.
Great news, GovGuam employees! The FHP Health Center is now accepting all employees of GovGuam enrolled in the self-funded insurance health plan. Continuity of care is important. If you're currently seeing an FHP medical, dental, vision, or home health and hospice provider, you can stay with FHP. If you are a GovGuam employee and want to see an FHP provider, you are welcome. Call 671-646-5825 to schedule an appointment. FHP Health Center, our island, your clinic.
Israel's offensive against Hamas is heating up.
The rocket fire from Gaza does continue here along the Israel-Gaza border. Some of the communities taking a direct impact today. Israeli forces say they struck new targets overnight, hitting tunnel shafts and weapons storage facilities. We also know they continue to go after Hamas leadership, including yesterday when they targeted Wissam Farhat, the commander of Hamas's Sajaiya battalion. Farhat was responsible for an attack in 2014 that killed 7 Israeli soldiers inside Gaza. He also was one of the masterminds behind the October 7th massacre. Now, the Palestinian Health Ministry says the death toll in Gaza is rising since the renewed fighting started.
Fox's Trey Yingst. The Israeli military says it has expanded its ground operation to every part of Gaza and ordered more evacuations from the crowded south. U.S. officials indicating what they would like to see in the Gaza region when conflict between Israel and Hamas ends. More from Fox's Gernal Scott.
Outside of any pauses in fighting, an end to the Israel-Hamas conflict does not appear close at hand. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said on Fox News Sunday, any resolution must include reformed government for Palestinians.
A revitalized Palestinian Authority that is much more able to meet the aspirations and the needs of the Palestinian people.
Kirby says the U.S. does not want to see Israel in control of the Gaza region, something Israel also says it has no desire for. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
At least 5 people are dead. 2 NYPD officers in the hospital after a deadly domestic dispute in Queens, New York, Sunday morning. Officers say a man stabbed 4 people inside a home before setting off a minor blaze in the house. Police say the suspect slashed 2 responding officers before he was shot and killed. A 13-year-old girl remains in critical condition as police are continuing their investigation. I'm Sue Guzman. This is Fox News.
Santa's coming and things are looking up. Bank Pacific has rolled out Rudolph's favorite, My Christmas Loan, with the annual percentage rate as low as 7.49% and up to $50,000. And with our Bank Pacific contactless Visa debit card, you have the flexibility of using your money when you want, where you want. My Christmas Loan, contactless Visa debit card. Let's make Christmas season merrier in 23. Equal opportunity lender, credit conditions apply. Merry Christmas from Bank Pacific.
Level up your performance. Level up your comfort. Level up your luxury with Infinity Guam's demo sale and year-end specials. Enjoy unbelievable Black Friday savings with more than $15,000 off the impeccable Infinity QX60. These demo models have low mileage, full factory warranty, a courtesy car program, and complimentary car washes for life with regularly scheduled maintenance. Schedule your overnight guest drive and qualify for financing in just minutes. Visit infinityguam.com today and level up. Some conditions apply.
Hafa-day. Alex Dimapon here from Security Title. Title reports, escrow forms, signatures, statements, and title insurance. When it comes to buying, selling, or refinancing your property, we do it all for you. At Security Title, we enjoy watching your dreams come true and being the ones to make sure it happens just as you planned. Call the professionals at Security Title. We are here to help.
There are just 21 days left till Christmas. And this Christmas countdown is brought to you by the Bougie Booney Dog Salon located in Tamuning. Yes, Rin Tin Tin says you can easily book your appointment to groom your dog online today at the bougiebooniebooksy.com website or join the WhatsApp and message them at 671-797-4163.
So here we are, big halftime show, Rogues Gallery here on Tall Tales. And we go from there to Hope Cristobal's screen test.
Colonizer! You're nothing but a white colonizer. That's who you are. Colonization is the same thing as slow murder. You're a murderer. That's who you are. We need to just do different. We need to do better. Get off my island!
Sir, you need to go. You can't be policing people here and telling people how to protest and what to protest for. You need to go. You need to go. I'm against this. That's cool, but you cannot be policing people and telling them how to protest and what to advocate for. She has a right to go.
I'm an indigenous tomorrow. I have more rights here than you are. You came here because of the structures of colonialism, asshole. Tayo mamalaw how sige Jordan tano di tano how waho bini tano waho bini madahoda waho na son na kayo bini hago tata na son mo bini what's on you need to leave.
You need to go.
Please.
You need to get out of here.
Please, sponsors.
Get out of here.
Please, this is not your place.
When I get a chance, go.
Please. Thank you. Thank you, sponsors. Please. Oh, you think
What happened, man?
Well, he confronted me.
What did he
He's
say?
telling me I shouldn't be here. I support Black Lives Matter. It's part of the colonialistic systemic racism. And I came here to support these people. He's a white man that has come here. And he continues the legacy of colonialism. He continues to fight people, individuals, my goodness. I'm a former senator. I authored the Commission on Decolonization. I'm a malo.
We're proud of you, Auntie.
Si Diyos mangasi.
Be safe.
Well, there it is. We run it every Monday. We're going to continue to run it every Monday. Hope Cristobal is the chairman of the Chamorro Language Commission. She has a responsible position in our community. For her to, carry on like that, really, it is derogatory towards the agency she's supposed to be chairman of. Once again, if we were to apply the categorical imperative to Hope Cristobal, how would it work? Would Hope like the entire world, everybody in the world, to behave like she does?
Yeah, it's really tough to say we want the world not to be hopeless. Or we do want them to be hopeless.
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
Yeah, for her to have the name Hope is perhaps as big an anachronism as you'll ever find. But there she is, and of course there's no question as to what she wants, where she wants to go, what she wants to do. And if you ever had any doubts about the Commission on Self-Determination, I think this little video might help you get your thoughts on straight.
I found it interesting. This is the silliness of identity politics. Just a couple of days ago, there was one of the founders of a state wing of Black Lives Matter actually endorsed Donald Trump, saying he's done more for black lives than any other president. And, of course, everyone's scrambling to denounce this leader because he doesn't represent blacks. Because even though he's a founder of one of the Black Lives Matters groups in another state. And that's the preposterous notion of having identity politics, is there are going to be diverse thought mindsets in a group where your only thing in common is as a superficial reason. And this cracks me up because it's the same thing. Let's also talk about the Black Lives Matter endorsement for Hamas. Nobody talks about that.
No.
I mean, they did it on their website too. So it's just, this is the fallacy of it, of this whole incredible organization, which makes this video every Monday more the reason why
it continues to be topical.
Exactly.
It really does, yeah. Okay, Frenchie wants to talk about systemic racism, so we're always anxious to hear Frenchie's take on these issues. Broad, deep, articulate, and understandable. Glad to have you on board, Frenchie. Go for it.
Well, you're putting the pressure on me there. So anyway, yeah. Last week the last 10 days I was in Minnesota, so I couldn't hear your show directly. I only heard it on YouTube in a delayed manner. But anyway, to go back to racism, and which is always the narrative versus the reality. At the beginning of this mess in October, I played several times for people to give time for the truth to come out, because besides the fog of war, there are always huge amount of propaganda, and I think as critical people, we should have learned that from the Ukraine crisis, pandemic crisis, and other crises before that. To me, I remember the 2001 rush to go to war with Iraq under the pretense that we had Saddam Hussein had chemical weapons and maybe atomic weapons and all those things. And when the French government decided not to go along, I mean, the fall from that was that, French were called cheese-eating monkeys, surrendering people, and all those nasty things that people come up, most of them who have never fought a day in their life. So, and I see this again happening with this situation in the Middle East right now. So the narrative since October 7 has been that massacre of innocent civilians, rape, kidnapping, burning of women, killing of civilians, and this has been brought forward as the justification for the Israeli raid on Gaza, because it is considered as a self-defense to try to eradicate Hamas. Now, of course, Israel is good, Hamas is evil, and the cartel media and the DNC mouthpiece like New York Times and Washington Post are basically running every day ever since what amount to press releases from the Israeli government. And unfortunately, this is a lot more complex than that. And I'm particularly disappointed that people that have been very upfront, for example, during the pandemic, they were very critical, asking questions, questioning the governors, putting roadblocks on Marine Corps Drive and stuff like that, are fallen silent or are acquiescent to all that narrative. Well, the reality now, almost 2 months later, turns out to be quite different, if not 100%, but at least on 80% of the facts. So what actually it was originally Hamas plan a military operation, and they actually executed it very well. They started by launching missiles at the communication towers of the Israeli army, and despite the Iron Dome, which is the Israeli defense anti-missile defense system, which was deployed on Guam for a short while during the Korean crisis, we found out that they were successful at taking out a lot of those communication towers. And then when they breached the security wall between Gaza and Israel, they had as target 6 major IDF, so Israeli Defense Force bases. They actually overran 4 of them and destroyed at least 4 Merkava tanks, which is that huge Israeli tank that's 65 tons. and also about 8 of those automatic machine gun towers, which are something that the Israeli built along the fence to protect it. It's used sensor and remote control firing mechanism, which is done by young female draftees that are used to play TikTok, and they use those towers like we use the remote control what you call in the air to basically have airplanes without pilots. So those
drones.
Yeah, drones. Thank you very much. And so then there was several Israeli units that were defending the wall. Actually, there is the Gaza division, which is basically 3 brigades, and the Golan Brigade, which is very famous in Israel for having stopped the Syrians during the 1973 war of Yom Kippur. And, well, they were able to, Hamas was able to reach those goals. They actually overran some of the military bases. They were all wearing uniform with unit patches and everything, and it was definitely a military operation. And they actually killed 3 Israeli colonels. They took 54 military POWs, which we call hostage, including 1 general, which had never happened since the Yom Kippur War. So it's years since something like that happened. They killed several female soldiers. Actually, it's one incident where there were 8 of those female soldiers that operate those automatic remote machine guns that are on top of towers that are about 50 foot tall, and which were neutralized with drones by Hamas. And they were in a bunker that was defended by 1 machine gunner who was killed. And the bunker was, Hamas threw a grenade in there and killed all the 8 ladies that were in there operating those remote machine guns. Most of the communication relays had been taken out, and which now makes sense about the communication nightmare that most of the journalists saw, and which explains the delay, very long delay of military reaction. The first attack opened at 6:30 a.m., and the Israeli force didn't have any coordinated counterattack until 12:30. So it's a 6-hour difference where basically Hamas was able to run amok and attain almost all their objectives. There was evacuation of the people they took hostage. And then there is the incident at the now very infamous Nova Rave Party, which happened in the Negev desert, and it's located between 2 kibbutz, Kibbutz Rehim and Kibbutz Be'eri. And there was 364 civilians that were killed there. Now, at the beginning, this Israeli government told us it was intentional targeting of civilians. What we found out is that actually Hamas had no clue there was a rave party. The rave party had been changed at the last minute and was there, and they kind of stumbled on it after they attacked the 2 kibbutzim, and they were trying to reach a Tzahal command center, which is right behind the rave party. And what happened is that there was total panic, and by the time the Israeli reacted, they had no troops on the ground except a few policemen that could not mount a counterattack. And what up? And the Hamas had two ways of moving their troops in from Gaza into Israel. They had motorcycle on the ground, and they had pickup trucks armed with 50 caliber machine gun, mostly Russian, the famous Dushka, which is their version of the FN Browning 50 caliber. And they were always, if you look at the movies, they all look up in the air because they were expecting drones or helicopter to attack them, and they were surprised nothing was happening. But when they arrived at the rave, the Israeli command sent 20 Apache helicopters equipped with 30 millimeter high rate firing guns with explosive rounds. And what we found out almost a month and a half later is that most of the 364 deads, almost 200 of them, were caught in a friendly fire from the helicopters. And the helicopters had pilots. The helicopter.
Frenchie, hang on a second. Let's let Frenchie.
Just real quick.
Frenchie, hang on a second here. Let's let Jose in for just a second. Go ahead, Jose.
You're throwing a lot of numbers and terminology that I completely understand. You do a lot of homework on this, but that Apache helicopter story has been debunked, and I know you're going to call racism on this. Well, let me finish.
Frenchie, hold on.
Let me finish.
Frenchie, let's let Jose have the floor. Frenchie, let's let Jose have the floor, and then you can pick it up. Go ahead.
What I want to say is, we talk about the media, and it's both sides of the media. There's the opinion stated side of the media, and then there's the hard news point of the media. And we all know that the hard news point of the media has always been on a pro-Hamas / Palestinian side. There is lots of stage events, and we've seen lots of different blogs and other alternative news sources who have been exposing these stage events, including the same victim over and over in a lot of different pictures, a lot of different scenarios. The Apache helicopter event is something that we can't say for definitive anything facts on it, and I would never say that that's what happened and that's not what happened, but it's very murky. The fog of war is very murky. But the point is that it did happen. A lot of lives were lost, and they were attacked. There were even cell phone footages from the attackers themselves. So it's kind of difficult to say who's reporting the truth when we got it straight from the attackers. And that's I'm just really disappointed that the Apache helicopter story is being promoted in this way, because it absolutely is a lot of false narratives that were being promoted to try to say that it was Israel who was killing their own people, and it absolutely is not true.
Frenchie,
okay.
Frenchie, you don't have the floor yet. Hang on a second.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, Jose. Jose has made a point. And you have dazzled us with an extremely deep and broad factual presentation. But remember now, this is talk radio. This isn't a military strategy session. So what I'd like you to do is sum up your position in 2 or 3 sentences rather than dazzle us with a really outstanding factual presentation, so that we can all sink our teeth into it. And I think Jose makes a really good point. All of us are third-party viewers here. None of us are on the ground. All of us have to rely on somebody else's eyes to develop what we think our own truth is versus systemic racism. So can you take it in that direction right after Frenchie? First thing,
okay, go ahead.
First thing we got to understand is that only one of us can talk at a time. And ordinarily, the one is going to be me because it's my show, and it's my job to make sure that this show is interesting. So we're going to have to go to Wrigley Field right now. When we come back from Wrigley Field, I'll be listening to your focus, your statement of the issue here, and then we can pick it up from there. Thank you, Frenchie.
Your pup deserves to have healthy skin and a smooth, soft coat, so book your appointment today at the Bougie Booney Dog Salon in Upper Tumon. Yes, that's Bougie, B-O-U-J-I-E. Grooming services for all breeds and sizes include a bath with high-quality shampoo and conditioner, haircuts, de-shedding, and complimentary nail trims. The cutest part is the Christmas photo shoot. You gotta see for yourself. Check them out at the Bougie Booney on Instagram. Book your appointment online at thebougiebooney.booksy.com. WhatsApp 797-4163 or reach out on FB and IG.
Hi, this is Jerry Roberts. What's happening in the workplace? What about your job and career? What ideas will find their way into your world? That's what you get with The Extra Point every day on The Ray Gibson Show here on 93.3 FM. Sometimes it's about what's in the news, or working relationships, or how to get further and do better. I try to make it interesting, inspiring, and hopefully sneak a little fun in too. Be a part of it. 7:25 weekday mornings. The Extra Point. Brought to you by First Hawaiian Bank.
There we are, Wrigley Field, Chicago, the world's most beautiful ballpark. I've got Frenchie and I've got Pete Santos out in the center field bleachers, both wanting to grab the mic and use the PA system at Wrigley Field to announce their various positions. So we've given Frenchie a fair amount of airtime. We're going to give him a lot more between now and Churchill Downs, but I don't like to keep people on hold for too long, so I'm going to let Repeat come on, and then after Repeat, we'll go back to Frenchie, but I'm going to really exercise discipline here, Jose. I don't care how persuasive Pete Santos is. No matter what he says, he can only say it once. No repeating it just because he's Repeat. So can you put Frenchie on hold, and then I'll go to Repeat. Go for it, Repeat. I guess you didn't want to talk that bad, did you?
Sorry, I'm sorry. So sorry.
If you're going to call in, you can't take a nap during the time that Jose answers the phone and I put you on the air. So go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, I just wanted to share a little bit of my experience with media reporting and battles, because I, of course, have been downrange and have been part of battles, and have even been part of investigations into battles and incidents and certain accusations of crimes of war or war crimes, violations of the laws of armed conflict. And to say that what comes out in the media versus what really happened is inaccurate is an understatement. So, then you hear people talking about what they believe happened after they've only heard it from media sources. So that adds additional layers of inaccuracy and biases that are placed in, like that old game telephone back in elementary school.
Right.
You tell one student something, and then they tell it to the next person, and then they tell it to the next person, and then they tell it to the next person. The other thing that makes it worse about listening to the media is the people that report to the media be biased, and then the media themselves are going to be biased, and by the time it gets to public consumption and then they repeat it, it's going to be way, way, way inaccurate. So unless you were there, unless you saw it with your own eyes, unless you did the investigation yourself, what you hear in the media and what you hear other people repeat about what's being said in the media is going to be very far from accurate. That's all. I just want to throw my 2 cents in.
Well, it's worth a lot. Thank you very much for calling and kind of setting that parameter for us. Thank you, Pete. So this kind of goes back to what I was talking about a little earlier about ethics and about people saying, I'll always do the right thing. I'll never do the wrong thing. I'll do the ethical other than the unethical. And in situations like this, most people in their heart of hearts figure, I'm going to back the correct side here. I'm not going to sell my house and catch a plane to Tel Aviv and go to battle for the Israelis or something like that. But in my thought process and what I say and people I talk to, I'm going to pick one side or the other. And I think this perhaps is one of those where you could pick one side or the other, but neither side is a paragon of virtue. Neither one is Snow White pure. There has to be some weighing in the process. And first time I talked about this, I said the key words here are these two really shorties, and but. So if you start what you're going to say by saying Hamas is really a bad bunch of dudes, all of the stuff they do, but Israel is not so hot either. Everything you say before the word but gets wiped out. If you were to phrase it, Hamas is a bunch of bad dudes and the Israelis aren't so hot themselves, it comes across much more different. So I try to do that, but I do have my favorites, and I'm going to have to tell you that I am anti-Hamas from what I know. And I've been pro-Israeli for a long, long time, perhaps going back to 1948. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is certainly subject to debate, but I'm not going to sneak up on you and say, oh, I hate the Israelis, but. So, Frenchie, I'm going to put you back on the air, but the first thing I'd like you to do would be to state your idea of what the issue is, and then if you want to give us one side of the issue, fine. If you want to give us both sides, that would be good. But dazzling with very well thought out presentations on the statistics perhaps doesn't help us reach the kind of level of knowledge that tailgaters are famous for. So go ahead and go for it, Frenchie.
Okay. Well, my thought is that it's extremely difficult in those kind of cases to try to make sense of things if you already come into the table with a preconceived ideas, which is something I do not have. I have friends in Israel. I have friends on the West Bank. I get direct reports from them at least 3 times a week. And my point was, this is what the narrative is. This is what actually happened according to several investigations that were going on. We as conservatives, we have been the victims of the so-called verification and true things and fake news. And when I hear Jose telling me that what I'm saying is fake news without letting me finish to speak, I find among my conservative friends.
Aren't you finishing? Aren't you finishing now, Frenchie? Aren't you finishing what you had to say now?
No,
you're not.
No, but it seems that what I'm saying makes a lot of people uncomfortable. So I was going to try to make the. Basically, what I'm saying is that what we have had is a single narrative in order to justify a military operation against civilian populations that 2/3 of the world consider as punishment for the deeds of a few, which is a war crime in itself. And what's going to happen, and what we are going to see happening in the weeks to come, is a total loss of the narrative by Israel and a tip over of whatever means of pushing our own philosophies around the world that's going to be totally discredited. Because something has changed since 2004, 2005, and 2014. The world is now everywhere in the world, even the most remote and poor countries have cell phones. They can get reports from people that are partisan in Asia, in Africa, in South America, and what they are seeing makes them think that we are biased from the beginning. I have heard that actually Israel is the last white colony in the Middle East. This is what we're facing. We're facing a tip-over, a moment where things are going to fall the other side, and we will lose most of what we have known as the American century from the 20th century. So on Guam, this has impacted us because reacting from emotions, two senators, conservative Republicans, J.C. Lujan and Chris Duenas, took away the 7 sponsors together. I think who was the Democrat that joined them? I think Joe, yeah. So went for the resolution 22337 to support Israel. Nothing wrong with that. But basically they created their own mousetrap. It was a tactical mistake because it opened the door for the independentista to move their grievance policies forward, while neither Adelup or even Underwood or any of the leaders of those movements actually took the risk to do that. They let a minor, useful idiot do the dirty job, and they're coming up with stupid comparison. But at the same time, the conservatives have been very bad at just trying to poo-poo the other side's argument, but failing to address the parallel that there was. For example, one parallel that one of the callers did is the experience of his grandmother with the Japanese hostage march in 1944. And you shot him down off the air. But there is a parallel. Now, we should have pointed to him that the parallel was not with the U.S., but with the Japanese, who were a dictatorship at the time. But we didn't do that. We said, well, it's not comparable and so on and so forth. They are parallels, and they are using those parallels to bring forward their grievance policies. And if you're going to fight those grievance policies, you have to do it intelligently, by recognizing the mistakes of both sides and by not going along with press release from the Israeli government or from Hamas, right? And I see that as a huge tactical error. When I was in Minnesota, Ilhan Omar, who I do not carry in heart, is basically certain to be reelected once more, because of the stance she's taking on principles. And you are in a blue city, and the people are buying on our narrative. And we are losing the narrative because Israel has been contradicting itself. It has not brought evidence that are tangible. And people see this as an opportunity to do ethnic cleansing. And this is not acceptable to most of the world. Even if you like Israel, it's not acceptable. You know, I just saw the old 1967 Charles de Gaulle speech that he did about the victory of Israel in 1967. And he basically said, France was not listened to, and Israel has decided to colonize those territories. Therefore, there will be a resistance, and they will imprison and kill people, but this will last for decades. And this is exactly what's happening. And you might call resistance fighter terrorists. You might call very nice people colonialists, but you are not changing anything. You're just camping in your own camp, digging your heels, and not bringing any solution. So this was my point as far as narrative against reality. And frankly, to say that the statement I was making was not correct, well, in fact, all the evidence lead from the own Israeli police, from all the military attachés from NATO in Israel, lead to believe that it was the Apaches that did most of the damage, because Hamas was armed with the biggest guns they had, with 50 caliber machine gun. You do not set buildings on fire with 50 millimeter machine gun or with AK-47. You need high combustible ammunition in order to do so. So this was not based on
Frenchie,
back and forth reports.
Frenchie, I got to break.
Reality.
Frenchie, I got to break in again. We got to go to Churchill. Frenchie, I got to break in again. We got to go to Churchill Downs. When we leave Churchill Downs, I'm going to give you the opportunity to state that sentence with the and then I think maybe we'll have to move on from there. So hang on until after we leave Churchill Downs. Thank you, Frenchie.
Santa's coming and things are looking up. Bank Pacific has rolled out Rudolph's favorite, My Christmas Loan, with the annual percentage rate as low as 7.49% and up to $50,000. And with our Bank Pacific contactless Visa debit card, you have the flexibility of using your money when you want, where you want. My Christmas Loan, contactless Visa debit card. Let's make Christmas season merrier in 23. Equal opportunity lender, credit conditions apply. Merry Christmas from Bank Pacific.
Christmas trees are going up at the Security Title Office in Tamuning, and with them comes the music and joy of the season. As we reflect on the ups and downs of 2023, one thing remains constant, and that is the deep gratitude we have for our customers and the meaningful work we do for our real estate community. Thank you for trusting us with your property. From our Security Title family to yours, we wish you a Christmas season filled with peace and joy.
So here we are, Wrigley Field, as you were. We've been at Wrigley Field already. We're already at Churchill Downs already. 6 furlongs, I cross the finish line and finish another episode of Tall Tales. And we've had Frenchie on for quite a while, who's given us a lot of really good information on what's going on in Israel with the Israelis, Hamas, the media, different focal points, different viewpoints, etc. Jose has shared some of his ideas on the subject, and I left it this way. I want Frenchie stated what he thinks the issue is, and it was a good statement of the issue. He also said that he sensed that what the things he were saying were making people uncomfortable. Well, that's good. That's exactly why we like Frenchie to call. You remember when I go through the rules of engagement, I always read this sentence. Look for provocative content on Tall Tales. Tall Tales thrives on disagreement. It's not my job to get everybody to think the same way about any of these issues. So if we have some gentlemanly disagreement on the show, I see that as a really good selling point. I, from time to time, have to kind of establish some guardrails here because we don't have an unlimited amount of time, patience, or ability to digest all of the information that Frenchie so fortunately has at his fingertips. So, Frenchie, I'm going to give you the opportunity to state that and statement that will guide us for the rest of our thought process on Hamas, Palestine, and Israel. So go for it, Frenchie.
Yeah, so to go back to the original thing, which was that, yes, civilians got killed, and some of the conditions we still do not know exactly, but there are indications it was not a one-way street, and hostage were taken, civilian hostage were taken. There is no excuse for that. And, you know, if military personnel is taken prisoner, this is a different thing. But out of the 300 hostage taken, there's only like 50 military people. So the other side, on you would say, and is this is the justification for the current campaign, which a large minority of the world is condemning because it's seen as a retribution against a civilian population. And so we have to be very cautious that we have in both parties, both Hamas, who wanted to rekindle the resistance movement against Israel, and they have done so, and the actions of Israel in the West Bank, for example, are going to make Hamas heroes rather than villains. And the government of Israel, which is now run by racist, racialist, fascist people that are on the right of Netanyahu, will ultimately lead to an intervention of the United States in forcing Netanyahu to resign and put in somebody that will be willing to accept this two-state solution, which is not a perfect solution, but right now is the only solution. And how they're going to work it out, I don't know. And frankly, I do not trust the Biden administration to do a good job. So I'm hopeful that the bloodletting will slow down. So far, in previous year, Israel has never gone over 50 days of continuous bombing of civilians. But it could last a little longer, and the people we have in our own administrations are not the A team, they are the C team. So I hope they can do that. The United States is the only country that can do that, and if we do not do it, Russia will do it. And this will be the end of U.S. influence in the Middle East. So we have one more chance to come up with workable solutions, and if we don't, the consequences, not only for Israel, because Israel's actions at this time could lead to its own destruction, but it will also lead to the fall of American exceptionalism around the world. And that's what worries me. And what worries me is that critical minds are being so zombie-like on this issue that, it desperates me to see critical minds that are not being used to be critical. So that's where I am.
Yeah, I like it, Frenchie, and I want to just kind of pick up here and kind of give you a preview of where I want to go tomorrow. I'm going to talk about Henry Kissinger tomorrow. And looking at this, I would frame it like this. What would Henry Kissinger do? Henry Kissinger, the master of realpolitik, not someone to be carried away by ideals, preconceptions, etc. And my own thought was that what Henry Kissinger would have done here and with Ukraine, rather than sign up on one side, attempt to find a position in the middle where he could serve as this is not a very good word, I'm sure there's a better word, but a peacemaker, someone who would be able to use the prestige and heft of the United States to bring a resolution to the conflict that neither side maybe really likes, but both sides could live with. What do you think of that?
Well, I think it's true. This is actually, if you go back in time, in 1973, the Secretary of State of the United States was Henry Kissinger, and the Nixon administration was very forceful in telling the Israeli to cool their heels and to accept solutions that they didn't want to have. But this is when the United States still had real diplomats, and a real president, because not only was Kissinger, now you can not like some of his policy, but he was an exceptional Secretary of State, and we had an exceptional president. We haven't had that many since. So, yeah, I mean, we know what Mr. Kissinger would have done because he's already done it.
Another example I like is what happened when with the so-called Suez War, and
1956,
when Egypt, and I remember it like it was yesterday, when Egypt took control of the Suez Canal, and I'm thinking, man, this is a great break for the United States. We're going to really be happy about that. Eisenhower said, no way. Brits, French, and get out of here. We're not going to get involved. You guys leave it alone. And probably it was a very good solution because Egypt has been a problem, but not as much of a problem as some of the other Muslim countries in that part of the world.
Yeah. Well, yeah, 56, don't forget the three allies in that war against Egypt was Israel, France, and Great Britain.
Right. And of course, you could see why the Israelis would want to control the Suez for sure.
Oh, of course. And in 1973, Nixon said, "Niet, you cannot do it." So they pulled back on the other side of the Suez Canal. And then now they gave Sinai back to Egypt. But then one of the consequences of what's happening now is that you have three of the most pro-Israeli Muslim countries, Egypt, Jordan, and Turkey, have now frozen their relationship with Israel. And it's very concerning because if things continue, their street might force them to take measures they do not want to take. And so the United States has the duty and the urgency to intervene so that cool heads can prevail rather than emotions.
Very interesting, Frenchie. I'm really glad you called today. I'm going to pick up the Henry Kissinger piece tomorrow, so I'll be looking for your wisdom and cool presentations once again. Thanks again for calling. That's our Frenchie, Jose.
Yep.
Maybe tomorrow it's going to be Jose versus Frenchie. Huh?
There's a lot of narrative there.
Yeah.
Peppered with flowery facts and figures. But I mean, I respect Frenchie a lot, and we have discussions off the air. You know, in meetings that we have in briefly, we don't always agree with each other. But I think I'm a very good student of understanding issues and seeing it from perspectives, and not being swayed by deep set things. I do am deep set on one thing, and that's anti-abortion. and I am deep set against war. Also, if people don't get it, I'm really against war. I'm very against capital punishment as well. But I'm also against being fooled by people, and I'm also against evil. And I can recognize it. I think all of us recognize evil when we see it.
Well, we've certainly had an awful lot of practice here in this part of our lives, haven't we? But I go back again to that part of the rules of engagement for Tall Tales. Look for provocative content on Tall Tales. Tall Tales thrives on disagreement. So you've done a good thing today, Jose. Thank you very much. And our president hasn't, so we'll just have to say goodbye to him. Let's go, Brandon.
USG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Ted Lindner, Fox News. The Pentagon on Sunday saying an American warship and several commercial ships came under attack in the Red Sea.
The USS Carney, that's a guided missile destroyer in the Red Sea, has shot down at least 2 drones fired from Yemen by the Iranian-backed Houthi rebels. And some of those drones managed to hit some commercial ships in the Red Sea, making this very clear. This is a multi-pronged attack against commercial shipping. This is a statement from a U.S. defense official saying Houthi missiles struck some commercial ships in the Red Sea. The Carney's been lending assistance and shot down at least 2 drones heading in its direction. So it appears that this attack was a multi-pronged. There were multiple drones that were launched. Carney, of course, has been a number of U.S. Navy destroyers, not only in the Red Sea, but off the coast of Yemen as well, and action was taken.
Fox's Lucas Tomlinson. The U.S. carrying out a strike on several Iran proxy fighters in northern Iraq near Erbil on Sunday. This, according to a U.S. official, the proxy fighters were seen preparing a drone or rocket attack suspected to target U.S. and coalition forces. The U.S. carrying out the strike before the fighters could launch anything, according to the official. Several of the Iranian proxy fighters were killed. The Associated Press learning that a former American diplomat who served as U.S. ambassador to Bolivia has been arrested in a long-running FBI counterintelligence investigation and is accused of secretly serving as an agent of the Cuban government. 2 people familiar with the matter say that Manuel Roca was arrested in Florida on Friday, and more details about that case are expected to be made public Monday, later today, with the unsealing of a criminal complaint. And these heating blankets are too hot to handle. Approximately 30,000 Berkshire blanket heated throws and blankets being recalled by the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission over reports of the blankets overheating, melting, or even catching fire. So far, no injuries have been reported. America's listening to Fox News.